Welcome to the Armchair Coaching Podcast. This is Coach Sheffer. I am the offensive line coach at Brentsville District High School in Nokesville, Virginia. And we have another guest today. But first, before I introduce that coach, if you are watching this on YouTube, please hit the like and subscribe buttons down below. We're trying to grow our community here on the podcast. And if you want to listen to this in podcast form instead of watching video, we are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, as well as many other platforms. I will make sure that the links to those are in the description below. So I'm going to introduce the coach real quick. He played his college football at Lehigh University and Shenandoah University. He has coached in multiple high schools, including Ocean Lakes High School, Great Mills, and Parkview High School, and is now currently the offensive line coach at Shenandoah University in Winchester, Virginia. I'd like to introduce Coach Nick Oakley. Thank you for joining us on the podcast today.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
No problem. I always like to talk to other offensive line coaches because I'm just trying to learn, just trying to meet with everybody, connect with people, especially since we're pretty close to each other. Now that we've kind of connected, maybe I could hopefully send you some guys your way because we've got some bigger boys coming up this year, bigger than what we've had at Brentsville in a long time. So
there's some great talent in Northern Virginia, and we always try to hit that hard. You can't if you're even a college team in the state of Virginia and you under recruit Northern Virginia, you're not going to be very successful. So you guys got some great guys out there.
Well, thank you. So I'm just going to jump right into it, Coach. I'm fascinated by everybody's coaching story. Each coach has a unique story, right? We have our own little path. Can you describe to the listeners your coaching journey? Basically, how did you end up where you are now?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been kind of convoluted. I played high school ball down in Virginia Beach at Ocean Lakes. That's my alma mater. Under Jim Prince, got a chance to go play for a 1AA team in Lehigh University. I guess it's called FCS now. Played defensive line there. Unfortunately, I wasn't as serious about academics. I majored in beer and women, and they didn't offer that. So they gave me the boot. I learned a lot, though. You learn a lot from your mistakes. Took a year off. 21 years old, I was back in my alma mater with Coach Prince, coached the offensive line, defensive line at Ocean Lakes. And then went through the transfer process, went to Shenandoah University, a Division III school in Northern Virginia. Played my final 2 years there, and then became a student assistant. So I hadn't graduated yet, and I was helping out on the coaching staff. And I did offensive line. And then there was a point where our wide receiver coach had left, and had to learn a whole new skill set. I was trying to become the fattest wide receiver coach in the conference. So I coached the wide receivers for a few years, and finished grad school, and then went on. Was looking for, I had my degree in education, so I was looking for a teaching job, couldn't find one. Our linebacker coach at SU went back to his alma mater in Southern Virginia, to Great Mills, and I landed a job down there too. So went down there, followed him, coached wide receivers and quarterbacks for a year. I was married at the time. Wife she was also a teacher. She couldn't land a job, so we were apart for a year, and then just kind of took a leap of faith, moved back to Winchester where Shenandoah is, became the wide receiver coach under a new head coach, new offensive coordinator. A few years later, moved back to offensive line in pursuit of my teaching career to move to a more prestigious school district. I helped a new head coach in Loudoun County, Virginia. He needed an offensive line coach, and we worked out a deal where I could help him and also coach, or also teach with him in the county. After a year of that, it was back to Shenandoah to be work with the offensive line again. So huge twists and turns, but that's where I'm at now.
Hey, I totally understand the twists and turns. I haven't really been coaching that long. This is my 6th year, if I remember correctly. Good Lord. I'm not that old, and yet coaching has already done this to my brain.
Yep,
But
adds up quick.
I know exactly how it is. I've been at a couple different stops, couple different states. So most of our listeners are high school coaches. Could you kind of take a moment to describe, what's the daily life of a D3 college coach like?
So, yes, I have an atypical experience because currently, right now, I'm a elementary teacher. I'm an elementary PE teacher and a Division III college coach. And at our level, we don't have the budget that the big names do, that UVA and Virginia Tech does. So we might have like 4 or 5 full times, and the rest guys are kind of say restricted earnings or a stipend position. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. So my breadwinner is teaching, and then I have a tremendous head coach that works with me to make sure that I can still do my job as far as teaching and coaching. But when it's in season, I'm at school, from 8 to 2, and then drive to practice. During school days, I'm collaborating with our other offensive line coach to schedule practice, go to practice. Practice ends, 2.5 hours later, we have practice after meetings. Saturday's game day, whether it's 1 o'clock or 7 o'clock, or our typical times. After games, start putting film in. On Saturdays too, we host recruits. So just shaking hands and kissing babies, and kind of making guys feel comfortable in their surroundings and feel comfortable at SU. And then Sundays are lift, meeting, game plan, getting ready. We give them Monday off. We have to give them, and NCAA says we have to give them 1 day off a week. So Mondays is a day off, and coaches come in, and we, I get done teaching for the day and come in, and we, stay till however long it takes. Say typically around maybe 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. Game plan for the week, and our practice schedule is ready for the next few days. Sometimes we're fortunate enough that we have quote unquote JV games. We have younger guys that go to local schools like Bridgewater and Stevenson and Catholic, and they play their younger players, and it's a contest where they can just improve and get some game time experience. Out of season, I'm not like with the full times who hit the road, and I did it for 1 season at SU before I got fully hired as a teacher. But I don't pound the pavement and go to all the high schools and stuff like that. But they come back to me and give me names and numbers and contacts, and just reaching out and being kind of phone-based recruiting from my end. In the off season, we have Saturday recruit visits where we have 40 or 50 families come in, hosting recruits and showing them campus and feeding them lunch, and making them, like I said, making them feel good. Spring ball happens. It didn't happen this year because usually in April we'll have spring ball in April. Before that is off-season lifting and meetings and stuff like that, and then and summer hits, and all of a sudden it's football season again. So it's depending on what part of the year it is. It's still in the season. It's a 7-day-a-week job. Out of the season, we get Sundays off as far as like football-related activities, but it's still slam-packed with stuff to do.
Yeah, that sounds like a pretty busy day schedule for you guys. So, I mean, high school coaches, we have a busy schedule, but we don't have to deal with recruiting. I'm sure the game planning for you guys is probably a little bit longer than what we do, to be totally honest. How would you describe your own personal leadership style? And then do you subscribe to any of like the coaching or life philosophies that you see out there?
Yeah, that's a good question. Leadership style, I'd say it depends on whom I'm addressing. If it's a first-year guy still trying to cut his teeth, I go with the do as I say method. We're going to get you into the program, know what the expectations are, know what you need to be successful in at SU and as an offensive lineman, and put a lot of time into the young guys. So that as they get older, you can give them the reins a little bit. We had a wide receiver coach 2 years ago. He was with us for a few years. Ben Taylor played at Virginia Tech and in the pros for a little bit, and he coached our wide receivers. And he always gave the preseason camp speech that he would give kind of camp rules and stuff like that. And he would tell the freshmen, like, freshmen, just let you know I hate you. And it was tongue in cheek. It was kind of a speech of endearment, but kind of at the same time, it's because we spend so much time developing them that we don't give them too much leeway and as far as input into what we do. And as they get older, it's kind of maybe going to like authoritative and follow me and I want to hear what you think. And then when you're an established starter and you're a senior, it might be a little more democratic, not to the fullest extent. You have input, but you don't have control. But that's kind of how you kind of bring guys along, and they, how they kind of develop them as players. As far as like life philosophy, I subscribe to not subscribe, meaning I listen to a lot and try to emulate a little bit. These two guys, Tim and Brian Kite, they're motivational speakers. They talk about the E plus R equals O method, events plus response equal outcome. And I'm not going to get a deep dive of it, but the events in life you can't control, and the outcome you have little control over, but how you respond to the events will affect the outcome. So different ways to do the R factor, and we talk about that with the guys. Brian Kite is an defensive player for Division III. I'm not sure what his dad, if his dad played ball or not. And they also have the second concept, which I tell our guys a lot, is no BCD. Don't blame, complain, or defend your actions. Take responsibility for your mistakes, and be the bigger man. I tell them the story of if I came home to my wife and I blamed her because I had such a terrible day at work, and I complained about how terrible her dinner was when she cooked, and if I defend myself when she said I was being wrong, I wouldn't have a very happy marriage. So you keep the BCD out of your life. And the second one probably is Mike Leach says it, and he has a very different style of coaching, but he says if either you're coaching it or you're allowing it to happen. And I use that not as a negative aspect, but more of a self-check. Like, the offensive line's a reflection of me, and I want to be a good reflection, and that creates good habits for everyone. And if you take care of little things, then big things can happen. I think that's John Wooden. But something that our offensive coordinator, Stan Hodgen, has instilled in our staff is that we coach the players that we have. We play to their strengths. If we got a gunslinging quarterback, he disciples from an air raid lineage, and if we have a gunslinging quarterback and great receivers, then we're going to throw the ball more. If we got a stud tight end who can block and catch and do all these things, we're going to be more 11 personnel. So we don't have a set playbook per se. We play to our strength. I know that was a long answer, but
hey, that's what we're here for, Coach. I'm definitely going to steal that BCD thing from you, though. That's a good one. That's a good, easy one to remember. Talk a little bit about offensive line, because I got to learn a little bit of something, right? What are some ways that you allow your offensive linemen to develop their own unique personality within the entire team structure?
That's pretty good. I never thought about how developing personalities as part of my kind of rubric for success. And that it's very thought provoking. I think offensive linemen have the greatest personalities on the team. They're selfless. I mean, David, if you have time for anybody, David Cutcliffe is the head coach at Duke, and he had a great take, and he called offensive linemen the greatest human beings in football. And and it's true, because they don't have. He goes on. They don't have any stats. They're playing a sport, playing a game, and they record no stats. You talk about pancake. We make those up, and the only real stat they can get is a fumble recovery, and that's not good for an offensive lineman to have. But I think the best analogy I have is when you learn to drive, you will earn the keys. Trust is a big part of our system for offensive linemen, of who they are on and off the field. The more trust I get that I have with guys, the more leeway I give them. Maybe I get some input about game planning or schemes or just in general offensive line stuff. But that kind of as the trust builds, the personality comes out. Once they're just, I tell the freshmen, you're young and dumb and you don't know anything, so just listen and learn. But I still want to hear your voice. I'm not telling you to shut up. I'm not telling you to sit quiet. And second thing that I like to do is break the stigma. Offensive linemen are not fat, slow, and lazy anymore. Build confidence. We have to do everything that everyone else on the field has to do, but it's harder for us to do it, and we're still expected to do it at a high level. So just building confidence, that helps guys come out of their shell a little bit. And that's what in turn develops great leaders is vocal guys who will step up and do and take leadership roles.
So at Shenandoah, and you can talk about yourself or the other coaches specifically, what type of kid are you looking to recruit at offensive line? And then what separates the kids that you do recruit from the ones that you don't?
So I don't nearly work as hard in recruiting as the full-time guys. And, like I said, I did it for 1 year when I wasn't teaching. I hit the road and stuff like that. And I have great admiration for all the full-time guys who do that. And, but so with that being said, I think as a staff, characters first. You look for a guy who's high character, who can be team and school oriented. We've had turd balls in the past, and those guys, what they do is they splinter a locker room. And those guys get cut. Our head coach doesn't put up with that. It's not an instant reaction. We try to have conversations. We try to help kids along, but there has been, a small number of guys who don't change, and when it hurts the team, then that's we got to do what we got to do. Motivated players, our defensive coordinator Brock McCullough, he had I'm pretty sure he stole it, but he has a quote. He's like, "How do you motivate your players? You recruit motivated players." You just find guys who really love the game of football and value getting a good education. Guys that when you learn all these, the first things you learn just by having conversations with them, and you just try to build rapport. And once you've been in the game long enough, things that guys say that you can just get a feeling for, and sometimes you're wrong, and that's fine. But if red flags come up, then you might try to clarify it with them and see where their mind's really at. But character, high character guys, motivated players, and talent. We can watch the film. Of course, talent is extremely important in our profession. But it's attitude before talent. You can only soar on the wings of talent for so long. And like I said, just getting to know guys. And as far as the offensive line, like I said, the mindset has shifted. BIG doesn't spell good anymore. You want guys who are fast off the ball, who show that nastiness. We talk a lot about nastiness at Shenandoah, and just you can't put an equation on it. You can't put a this is nasty and this isn't, just being relentless, finishing blocks, guys who have good pop, uh, have good hands, have good just body control. Some of our best offensive linemen that have come through have been all-state wrestlers at the high school level because they just have such great body control. Um, the D linemen we're facing nowadays, they're werewolves. Like we don't face fat guys that can barely move and just hold a gap. So we have to try to match their athleticism with the guys we recruit. So like I said, just because you might be 6'7", 360 pounds, we've had that before. And it doesn't always translate to being the best offensive lineman on the tape.
So what are some of your favorite offensive line drills? And then do you have any like everyday drills that you use?
So when I started coaching, I did EDDs. We did them all. Every day we carved out 10, 15 minutes or whatever it was. As I got older, I'm not saying EDDs are bad. It's just we run a very concise practice. Anybody can practice for 3 hours and get it done. But if you can do it in 2 to 2.5, the greats can do that. So we're always moving. We're a tempo offense. It's not the direct tempo as the snapping the ball every 28 seconds. We have the option to do that. But we practice with tempo too. So we're rapid fire. We're not sitting around, talking or chatting or burning daylight and stuff like that. So we get through a lot of things fast. And we kind of base our drills off of the game plan, our opponent, so that what we practice in drills shows up on film, which I think is the most important thing of running in indie drills, is that they show up on film. You're not just doing them because, I've been doing them for 10 years and that's what I do. But favorite drills, run game. I tell my guys that when we're facing the defense, it's 100% as far as effort. In run game drills, I try to create stuff that limits the amount of impacts, but still the same amount of strain. That's kind of a old term that's coming back, is strain, kind of that feeling, that rolling the hips and not just the pop, but then the strain. But so creating drills like that, whether it's just basic fundamental stuff, fitting up before you practice a run block and just practicing the strain. We actually, Coach Oliver, Calvin Oliver is our D-line coach, and he does a great job with his guys with their hands. So we will actually go down and work hand fights, low impact hand fights with the defensive lineman. We'll be face to face, and we're Mr. Miyagi out there. We're waxing on, waxing off. And he'll tell us combinations and stuff, and our guys just improving their hand-eye coordination. Another one I found is I call it drop and drive. Two guys start. One starts low, one starts high, and he's driving about 4 or 5 seconds. And this guy's giving great resistance. Always teach the dummy to give great resistance. And on the whistle, this guy practices sinking their hips, anchoring their feet, force through the ground. This guy stands up, and then they're driving back. So it's 4 or 5 reps back and forth, a drop and drive. There are times, not everything's perfect, and you get caught where you're getting lifted and you're not in a great position, but you have to reset your body and your hands and kind of sink down and do that on a whistle in a moment's notice and try to push people back and forth. We run a lot of outside zone. So I like to put 2 offensive linemen against each other and tell them, you're both offensive linemen and you both got to win. And, so we work outside shoulder, trying to reach each other. Sometimes for the younger kids that know they're going against somebody who's going to beat them, they'll just turn and run and just try to beat them to the edge. And, we'll correct that. But we want contact and then working reach blocks for both guys. We passed the ball a lot past couple years. We led the country 2 years ago at all levels in passing yards per game. So I'm very passionate about pass game drills as well. We are big LaCharles Bentley subscribers, offensive line performance. A lot of their drills we try to do. Now, I understand these guys, we talk about it with the other offensive line coach, that LaCharles Bentley the guys he's working with are draft picks, and he's doing it in air conditioning on a turf field. And we don't always have that luxury. So just taking things where drills to get their feet, hands, and eyes in the right spot. whether it's just setting on air with a guy standing there, starting slow and working up. A couple drills we like doing that for body control. We do push-pull. So we have the offensive player in a good pass pro demeanor, hands behind his back. Defender's got the back of the head. He's got hand on the chest. Always start with a push. You don't want to set up guys for failure. And the defender is just pushing as hard as he can. And while he's getting pushed, the offensive lineman's pressure hopping back. When he gets pulled, he drops his ass and ducks, walks forward. And you just not super jerky, but maybe 3 or 4 seconds of both. The transition can be jerky, but don't go, back and forth quickly. It defeats the drill. And probably the last one, the pressure hop. Just kind of having duck feet, straight legs, hips fully thrusted forward. We practice using our hands to go under the armpits and try to deflect their bull rush up and away as we're hopping it back, and always be prepared for a snatch at that point. But beating the bull rush, we see a lot of bull rush in the ODAC. And then one our offensive coordinator gave us was a full line drill. We call it Texas Tech because he got it from Leach while he was at Tech. And we've done all 5 offensive linemen, take your helmets off, dummy defense in front of it, the typical coach standing behind you, blitz, you loop, you do this, call protections. It's about half speed at most, and it's just watching guys' eyes. They do make all their calls, and just defenders filling gaps. And it gives you a chance to kind of just slowly see how they get into their position, and you can correct certain things and deal with some unique situations as far as how the defense attacks you. Just slow, methodical, helmets off. It might be a pre-practice thing. Might be something you do while they're doing 7-on-7, just to work pass pro.
Well, Coach, I'm going to let you know, consider all of those drills stolen.
No problem. That's all, they're all stolen from me. I didn't make up a single one of them.
Yeah, we don't pass. We're spread, but we're spread to run mostly because we have a really good running quarterback. But we do pass it a little more than some of the other teams in our league. So this year I am going to try to do a little bit more pass pro, a little bit more, maybe like 40% of practice we'll do pass pro and stuff like that. But yeah, I like that Texas Tech idea, but the push-pull one, I haven't seen that one before, but I'm definitely going to use that one.
It's good for body control. It shows guys that they need to activate their core and their back while they're doing stuff. And guys will get, they'll be getting pulled, and then the defender he's like 1,001, 1,002, 1,003, and then they'll shift. They'll have their ass dropped, and they'll be walking forward, and they'll shift to a bull rush and then flat back. And you just understanding that body control, and to teach the guys that you get the fundamentals, you get the basic stuff, you understand the technique and the body control, then you can improvise, then you can take your game to the next level. But if you don't start there, then you can't go on and do advanced things.
So without giving too much away, you kind of mentioned air raid philosophy, and that's how your offense works, but you seem to be very versatile with depending on the types of players you have. What are your personal views on offensive and defensive schemes? Like, do you have favorite ones? Like, if you were the head coach or the offensive coordinator, what would you run?
I think it still comes back to the coach, the players that you have. You can't walk in, and this is all verbiage from Coach Hodge. You can't walk in with a playbook, put it on the table, and say, "This is what we're running," because it might not suit your guys. We had Hayden Bowserman. He was the guy who threw the ball over the yard for us for 4 years, eradicated every passing record that we have, and broke every scoring record that Shenandoah has in our history. And, we knew he was a special talent. So we knew that if our butts were on the line, he was jersey number 8, that we're going to put it in 8's hand and he was going to make us right. Before him, we had a tremendous running back named Cedric Delaney. And he was just magical. We turned into a kind of a inside zone veer out of 10 and 11 personnel type offense, but we broke school records and conference records of how many times we handed the ball off. I think against NC Westland, I think maybe like 68 times we handed the ball off to him. And it's just making sure your playmakers get the ball in their hand. 2 years ago, we were really good at throwing screens. So I'd say maybe 60% of our pass offense was screen game. Just quick, modern day toss sweep, modern day handoff to a slot receiver and get blockers in front of him and let him do what he does. I think the air raid has a place. I think the spread offense has a place too. And like you said, you guys utilize a running quarterback. We unfortunately haven't had a running quarterback in a while. If our quarterback, got in a race with a pregnant woman, he'd come in third place. So we've been improvising on how to make up for that deficiency with, the zone read concepts. But I played in a wing tee. We weren't very good when I was at Shenandoah. 2 wins a year. We were wing tee, then we were triple option, then we converted to pro. So I've experienced a lot. If I were to sit here and tell you, gun to my head, I'm the offense coordinator / head coach, I'd probably start at 11 personnel and build off of that, with motions, and just stuff to complement other things and keep, the KISS method, keep it simple, stupid. And defensive schemes, there's so many defensive schemes that on X and O hurt us, and we have a tremendous coaching staff that come up with some awesome game plans. When we were throwing the ball over the yard, 55 times a game, I think out of their 10-game season, maybe one opponent was the defense that they were on film because of, they were drop 8, drop 9. Hell, we played Hobart and they dropped 10 and rushed 1 just because, and we still completed for a 35-yard gain. Yeah, I'd say 11 personnel would be who I'd start at as far as an offensive scheme.
Yeah, personally, I early in my career made the mistake of saying, kind of like what you said before, this is what we're going to run, this will work, doesn't matter who we've got. And over time, I've definitely mellowed out on that. I'm definitely more like, yeah, we got to stick to what the players are good at. If you can't throw the ball, air raid's probably not for you. If you can't run the ball, wing tee's probably not for you, So I'm definitely more fluid with that. It's always been a dream of mine. And I say the word dream because it's not exactly a goal, but it's always been a dream of mine to one day be a college coach. What are some tips that you might have for someone like me, like a younger high school coach who has that aspiration?
Well, if you and I were having a face-to-face, conversation about this, I'd ask you, if you're going to conferences like AFCA, and things like that, because connections do it. When I was younger and didn't have a family and didn't have a wife and kids, and our school paid for our convention fees, and we would pay for for our own way to get down there, and I would spend the 4 nights we were there or whatever, that I would go down, like we were in Nashville at what's it called, Grand Ole Opry or something like that. And every night I went down, I said, I'm going to shake 10 people's hands and learn 10 people's names. And I would stand on just hanging out at the restaurant or at the bar or on just places having conversations. Just people, hey, I'm Nick Oakley, Shenandoah University. Who are you? Where are you from? Just trying to make connections. And half the time we'd start like a 30-minute conversation, and then I get a business card and now I got somebody to connect with. In this day and age, with the pandemic, I know AFC is going to be virtual this year. We got a message of that. This spring and this summer, I can't tell you how many free resources there were. And I'm sure there's still more coming of just clinics and people talking and doing this right here, but kind of one person talking and, 100 people or 50 people listening, just typing information. And then typically at the end, the coach says, here's my contact information, reach out for anything. You better reach out, because that's how you build relationships. I'd find yourself a Brock McCullough. Brock McCullough is our defensive coordinator. The man knows everybody. When we go to AFCA, there's 6,000 quarter zips and khakis walking around the convention hall. And we can't walk 50 yards with him stopping and shaking someone's hand and knowing somebody. And that helped me a lot because especially when I was younger, we'd go like, hey, this is Coach so-and-so from so-and-so. And he's like, oh, this is Coach Oakley. He's old adage that it's not what you know, it's who you know. It really falls into place as far as getting your foot in the door and trying to get into the college ranks, in my opinion. I think you're muted, Coach.
Oh, it's been a long week, but that's definitely what I'm trying to do. But like trying to reach out, and I'm not actively trying to get a college job right now, but definitely the connection piece, making connections for who knows what happens in the future, right?
Mm-hmm.
The last question is 2 words. Why Shenandoah? And so what do I mean by this is, what makes Shenandoah special, and what would you tell a potential recruit, why they should choose Shenandoah?
Yeah, and so I give you the 50-cent spiel, but for me it was, I'm an alumni. I have a lot of pride in being a Hornet, and for me, why Shenandoah? It was a quick way for me to get into college coaching. I finished playing. I still had a year of undergrad left because I pissed away 2 years of school, and so I was a student assistant, and it's a great place to live too. Like Winchester, Virginia is up and coming. Like even when I was, in 2006, and 7, when I was there, the community has grown, and maybe the question is, why not Shenandoah? You get a great education. We're one of the top small colleges in the Eastern Seaboard. We have an awesome coaching staff from very diverse backgrounds. We also have some other alumni, like I mentioned, Calvin Oliver. The man started the program back in the early 2000s, and he's still on staff. So he gives great insight. We have tremendous players. We have all conference. All American. We had an All American offensive lineman last year, and I mean, like I said, Hayden Bowserman. He was a Gagliardi finalist. I might have pronounced that wrong. He was the Final Four for that. Campus, like you mentioned, is just fantastic. It's beautiful campus. It's open for kids to get out of their dorm rooms and go interact. We haven't with Coach Yoder, we haven't won a conference title yet, but there's been years we're only a game away. So as for speaking on the offensive end, like we're a fun offense. We spin the scoreboard, baby. Like, you had John Davis on the other day, and he had tweeted one time at our OC, said death, taxes, and Stan Hodgen offense. Like those are 3 things guaranteed in life. So we score points, and we have a lot of fun doing it. Obviously it's not easy, but we have a great core of guys. We have a great family mentality. We don't have jerks. Like I said, we don't have people that don't want to that maybe just here for a jersey or just say they're on a college roster. And our number one goal in any student athlete comes to the door is you get your degree. Like that's the number one priority, and we have plenty of resources on campus with professors who are willing to help, tutors that are on hand. We're non-scholarship, but you still can get academic money. And the community itself, I even remember when we weren't in our heyday, is that you go into town, there's sheets right across from campus, and you walk in and the cashier is like, oh, Nick Oakley? Yeah, you had a great game the other day. Like it's kind of a mid-major kind of feel as a small community, and it's electric, man. Like it's not some of the schools that are out in the middle of nowhere. We fill the stands every Saturday for all our home games, and we have great support.
All right. Well, I have one last part for you to answer. It's a final thoughts question. a lot of coaches out there, even D3 college right now, not having a fall season. And so you've got people, a lot of coaches not knowing what to do with themselves, right? That was one of the reasons I started a podcast, because I really didn't know what to do with myself. And my wife was getting a little bit annoyed with me. So do you have any like final words of wisdom for other coaches out there who might be going through something like we are going through right now?
Yeah. Well, first, hat tip to you for doing this. This is fantastic. Like, I keeping up with you on Twitter, listen to your podcast and stuff. Like, you're making moves, and it's fun to see you grow. Final thoughts. Just we're all going through this. Division III and Division II are not playing football. I think there's 14 1AA teams playing. So basically the point is there's over 500 institutions in NCAA, and less than 100 are playing college football right now. I believe my math is correct. And so use your resources. Do things like what you're doing, Coach, is reach out to people. If you're having trouble, if you're struggling, if you're looking for answers, reach out. Use Twitter, use any social media, use whatever it is. Connect with people. Don't think that you have to take this on your own, and take risks. It's kind of like I did when I was down in Southern Maryland. I was living 2.5 hours away from my wife, who was living in her parents' basement. I just said, you know what? I quit. I'm leaving Maryland and going back to Winchester and see what happens. That's not, fortune favors the bold. So just take that leap sometimes when you think that maybe hope's lost, and you need a spark in your life, or you're really working towards a goal. Maybe it's going from high school to college. Put yourself out there. Don't be afraid to reach out to a prestigious coach on Twitter, and if they don't respond, whatever, just take a risk, and understand that if you're struggling and you need someone's help, there's someone out there that needs your help. So be open as well. Don't follow all the coaches that follow you on Twitter. Don't be stingy with passing down knowledge, because I believe that's what we're put on this earth for, to gain knowledge and pass it on. So someone needs you just as much as you need someone. Be self-aware, as far as being yourself. It's kids see at our level, kids see right through it. Like I said, I'm an elementary school teacher, and kids see through fake in a heartbeat. They're the fastest ones. So just be genuine, and make sure you're still having fun. If you're not having fun, just reevaluate what makes it not fun and try to fix it. But we chose this profession because we love it, not because we make, how much we make per hour or salaries and stuff like that. So it's got to be fun. You got to love it. So, like I said, we chose it for a reason. Make sure it's still fun.
All right, Coach. Thank you for coming on tonight. I really appreciate you joining us tonight.
Oh, thank you. This was a blast. I was telling my wife about it. I was getting all giddy about it because I don't, offensive line coaches D3 levels don't get too many interviews, but this was a lot of fun. Like I said, I appreciate what you're doing. You're doing an awesome job, and keep it up. I'll be a big supporter of you.
All right. Well, offensive line coaches got to take care of each other, right?
That's right. Mushroom Society. What you said?
Cool Mushroom,
yeah, Joe Thomas. He said Mushroom Society. We're mushrooms. We get covered in crap. We get stuffed into the corner. Expect to grow and flourish, and come out looking the best we can. So yeah, we absolutely got to take care of each other.
Exactly. Well, this has been the Armchair Coaching Podcast, and this is Coach Sheffer signing out.